Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Work with Brad Koima of Koima Varlick, and seeing a pullback in the grains today. Livestock futures to the plus side. More record highs in the futures in both live and cattle futures here today, Brad. And what a historic week last week, but we keep building on it on the futures. I mean, there's nowhere to even project to where we're going now on the charts, is there?
Well, yeah, thanks for having me on. It's a historic week, fun, my goodness. You finally get that feeling like been talking about when is it our turn. It's fun if you're a cattle person here anyway, to enjoy the ride. You talk about where can it go? I have no idea. First of all, it's hard enough to figure out if you're going up or down, right? But if you did like a chart measurement, a leg up, equal leg up on this next deal after we've made new highs now, you could make a projection in February of 208.55, I believe is what I came up with. The guys and I were talking Friday when the thing really exploded a little bit about a couple of years ago when we were starting to do some of these presentations, and people like to have a broker guess, right? Well, how high they think they can go, Brad, And I remember we worked on some projections just kind of for fun, for entertainment value at some of these meetings you do at night, if you would do the same thing like the hogs did, the COVID low to where they rallied, or if you do the same thing like orange juice did, or if you do like cocoa did. And, we did some of those things just, kind of for drama. Well, it came out to like 210 to 212, which is what we got last week for cash cattle, 212. Anyway, it's kind of fun. And I guess I encourage the producer to use their head. I think this is a great time for put options where the market's got upside potential, and we're still trading at a discount to cash, by the way. But let's be wise. Yeah.
Feeder is going to get to 300.
Sure.
Did you do that same projection for that one?
I thought August feeders had a chance at 300. I still do. The timing of the rally on the fats is a little quicker maybe than some of us had thought. And of course, whatever cost of feed is going to be part of that dynamic. But there's been plenty of upper seven weight cattle that already are there. So we'll see if the futures figure it out. Now, if you do the cattle crush compared to the feeder, compared to the live cattle, the feeder cattle do appear to be high, or fats are too low.
So let's talk about the push here in the cash trade. 4 weeks of record cash. Where did we fall out here in terms of last week's cash trade, especially in the north?
To me, it comes down to the same issue you and I've talked about over and over, and people are probably tired of me hearing about it or saying it, but I'm going to say it again. What the north has for inventory and what the north has for leverage is critical to the market, in my opinion. And it's critical because we actually trade cattle here. We actually negotiate for cattle here. And if you think about it, there's a much more static supply of cattle in the South, the corporate South, even from its biology, right? I mean, these guys calve year round. The North doesn't. Largely a spring calving deal with some, small percentage of cattle that are calved in the fall. So you've got these cycles, these turns of cattle. That's why it's so critically important, because our numbers kind of would do the deviation. In a bad market, for instance, we're the ones that are behind and we aren't current, and we're dragging the market down because our cattle are too big and blah blah blah. Now the opposite is true. I believe that we're pulled ahead a month around here. We thought we paid too much for yearlings, and here it turns out they're going to work. We can't wait to sell them, and the weather has been unprecedentedly good. This might be the most mild winter I can remember up here. So the cattle have performed well. So I don't know. The North is driving the bus here on this deal. Compared to what the South did last week, I mean, what a complete joke. Last week, Monday, people were trading cattle in the South at 201 and then held out for 202. Good for you on Tuesday. I don't understand what they're doing there at all. And they're doing a very poor job of marketing. Of course, they don't hardly sell any, so luckily for us. But yeah, we finished up 211 to 212. And in some cases, cattle that were sold Friday are already on the way to get slaughtered this morning.
Wow, that is crazy. So record cash pushing the futures. So that's part of what's getting us into those all-time highs. The other thing this morning, cattle and feed report was friendly too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Placement number down a little bit compared to expectations. They thought it was going to be 100. It was 97. And largely that was driven by the border closing. The Texas placement was 77%. So obviously that draws down the whole deal, and clearly influenced by the fact that the Mexican border is closed. The other thing that I thought, I didn't see anything on the weight breakdown that was particularly interesting, but I would mention this. And while it's somewhat subtle, it's the first time really that there's been at least something worth commenting on in terms of the heifers. So every quarter you get a breakdown of steer and heifer placements. So this time heifer placements were down 3% year on year. They were 38.7% of steers, where the last time they were 39.7. Now you might say that's kind of subtle, and it is, but down 3%. That's the first time that I would say finally maybe you're seeing just a little retention. Not a white, not huge, not dramatic like it was in 15, but still, it looks like finally enough people are incentivized by these high cow calf pairs, or the fact that they've culled so many cows that they've decided to save at least a few. So, in the short term, well, in the next 6 months, that's actually friendly supply side. We'll have to keep our eyes down the road a year or so to see if we start to see that rebuild phase happen for real.
And the cattle inventory report on Friday should be very bullish, you would think, as well, right? Confirming these tight numbers.
Every now and then you go like, how did they come up with that? I'm with you. It has to remind us all just how small the cow herd is, how small the calf crop is. It should be very supportive, I would think, from a supply standpoint for sure. I'm anxious to see it. And of course, it makes even a little more drama, being that they didn't give us the July inventory report. So I'm looking forward to seeing it for sure.
One last question on cattle here. We also got a push last Wednesday because of the Mexican border really is not reopened to feeder cattle. When will it be open? Do we even know?
No, we don't. The feeling is sooner rather than later, but I think I've said that to you for 2 weeks now, so I apologize. Right. But it's weird. We seem to have quite reliable sources saying, well, okay, we're going to do this. It's going to be $850 a day, blah, blah, blah. And then something else happens to postpone it again. So I'm not sure. One would sure think it would be quicker now, but obviously I've been misled a couple of times here already. We'll see. I guess we're just going to have to wait to see. I can't imagine that you wouldn't get some kind of a psychological reaction in the feeder cattle futures particularly, and maybe even in the deferred cattle, as we anticipate that there's obviously a backlog of cattle there that are going to want to move. So.
Absolutely. The hog market has been, well, it looks like we put the low in anyways intermediately, but have the hog market traders been basically following cattle?
To me, it felt to me like the hog's been nearly impossible to trade, at least for me. It felt to me like the market was kind of vulnerable, that it rolled over, that we were, getting into where there was plenty of hogs around, blah, blah, blah. And then this last rush on the cattle seemed to stop the selling. And now we're basically mid-range, for instance, on April hogs for what the recent trading has been here the last 6 weeks or so. I'm inclined to think with cattle this high, that it would be difficult maybe to break the hogs, at least to a large extent. And as we move forward, by the way, we're starting to hear, disease and hogs, they're in the same sentence, right? But we certainly hear in our area here the influence again of another PRRS problem, which is limited supply of feeder pigs. And if you look at the cost of what these feeder pigs have been, that does seem to reflect some tightness in supply too because of disease again. So maybe this hog thing's all right moving into springtime. I guess it should be, especially with hogs this high, or cattle this high.
Yeah, I've been hearing the same thing from producers about disease. Finally, grains taking a little bit of a setback. We ran up into some chart resistance last week, but this seems to be partially about Argentina getting some rain.
It looks like it's going to get even wetter there. I wonder, next step will be that it's going to be too wet to harvest or some stuff like that, right? Sorry, I'm being sarcastic. I think improved conditions there, less threatening conditions at least. So far, a lack of specific tariff talk with China is part of the deal. Right. But the corn thing, for about 6 weeks, I told you, what, the basis is strong, the spreads are good. I can't say either one of those anymore for a minute here. Okay, basis has gotten a lot weaker around here. I think that tells me that there's some corn in farmer hands, maybe more than they thought. I think for a minute you got to pump the brakes here a little bit on the bullish talk on both the corn and the beans. At some point, we're probably going to have to be faced with the idea that Brazil's crop is still really big, maybe record large on the beans to deal with. So I'd be a little careful here. I would clean up old crop sales is what I've been saying here for a week or so, and then see once if we don't maybe have just a bit of a correction. Corn's had a pretty big move here. We could easily stand a break a little bit, especially with wheat stuck down here at very low prices.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much for joining us, Brad Koima with Koima Varlick. That is Markets Now.